That's why they're doing the every teacher has Wednesday, and I'm like,
okay.
that's what I meant. Same time, and everybody's at school. And I'm like, why should I sound surprised?
You guys remember that first week when you guys never didn't say anything and it was really quiet in here?
No, I don't remember that.
You don't remember that? Oh, I remember that. I still have one class, my gold first hour, that doesn't say a word. They don't even make facial expressions. They don't shake their head. They just sit there like I'm looking at a wall. It was horrible. Now, my other half of the first hour is great. So,
Is it green or gold?
it's the gold. Gold
Green.
regular.
Green is depressed. See, I feel like green is
Green is depressed.
Green is depressed.
Oh, it's fine. Come on. All right. All right. So, how many of you guys saw Module 3 on Canvas? Okay.
I saw the assignment.
Did I do an assignment? You saw the assignment. Okay. And then I put section 3 notes on Canvas. These notes. Okay. So what I would do if I were you is print those at home. Bring them with you. Okay. You're welcome to take notes today if you want, if you get nervous about it, but they are on Canvas. Okay. But this is going to allow me to speed things up a little bit, guys. We've got 4, 5, and 6 left. Okay. This is going to go quick. A lot of this stuff we've already talked about because, well, the election, right? So you're going to get more details and more knowledge about political parties than you want. Okay. So here we go. So we're going to look at the functions, why we are stuck in the two-party system. Okay. We're going to look at minor parties and how the national parties, the Republican and Democratic parties are set up, and how the state parties and local parties are set up. Okay. This is the apparatus. Okay. The history of political parties, that's your homework. Okay. Voter qualifications, why people vote, why people don't vote, voting behavior, polls. We already talked about polls and how you get the margin of error. And then I'll do a day on political ads, like historically. Guys, the first political television advertisement was in 1952 when Dwight Eisenhower was running for president. TVs were relatively common in people's homes, and so they started advertising on TV. And I know you guys have probably seen enough political ads for, 4 years in the last, 6 months, right? Especially Barbara Bollier, yes?
Oh, I see that one all
Okay.
the time.
Guys, Democrats spent a massive amount of money. The most expensive Senate race in America was in North Carolina, and Tom Tillis versus a guy named Kyle Cunningham. And they just called that race, I think, yesterday. And Tillis, the Republican, retained his seat. He was the incumbent. Okay. Over $100 million. In South Carolina, it was like $98 million for these Senate races. I don't know how much Barbara Bollier spent, but it had to be, $30, $40 million in the state of Kansas. Okay. All that advertising. Okay. So, as far as the state of the election goes right now, Georgia's doing a full recount. And I think I saw that Wisconsin might be doing the same thing. Okay. Arizona has narrowed to about 10,000 votes. Okay. With, I think, around 40,000 left to count. Okay. And some of those are provisional. So what happened, guys, is with the mail-in voting, which just really created a lot of confusion. People weren't sure whether their vote got there in time or whether it got counted mail-in. And so they went in to vote in person. And they would fill out provisional ballots just in case their mail-in didn't get counted. Okay. And so I think that's mostly what's left in Arizona, mostly what's left in the states that don't have a full accounting yet. Okay. So it's hard to know how many of those will be counted or which candidate will favor. Okay. I think we are getting closer to an end, but I don't know. I mean, there's some lawsuits on whether in Pennsylvania, the case was you're supposed to allow observers from the two political parties to come in and watch. And in Philadelphia, which is the second largest city in Pennsylvania, they kicked the Republican poll watchers out. Okay. And around 350,000 votes were counted without any poll watchers. Okay. And so there's a lawsuit that's going through the courts right now to either recanvass those or throw them out. Okay. There's a bunch of lawsuits. Okay. So those got to work their way through the courts. I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea. Okay. I would say at this point, just looking at it, it favors, Biden. Okay. So they're trying to move forward with transition because the elections haven't been certified yet, and we don't know for sure. The Trump administration has been hesitant to open up everything to the new administration coming in. Okay, like classified briefings and stuff like that. Okay. Once the election is certified, then the transition, the Trump administration will help the Biden administration transition in. Okay. But they're resisting that at this point because Trump still thinks he's going to win, which I don't know. Okay. All right. So we'll do sorry, I got sidetracked there, but it's just an update. Okay. Political ads and propaganda. In your book, you guys did some propaganda. I believe it was your sophomore year. Was it your sophomore year? You remember this? Things like bandwagon, testimonial, transfer, fear, logical fallacies. You remember this? Okay. This is on page 71. Okay. You are responsible for this. There will be some matching questions on the test over this. Okay, page 71. All right. So make sure you look over that before the test. I will remind you. Okay. All right. So there's we'll be looking at some fun stuff. I think interesting stuff. Okay. So we're going to start with just a basic definition of political parties. I think if I make this all bold, it might be easier to see on the screen. That might help a little bit. Okay. Can you guys read that at all? I mean, of course, guys, you have these notes on Canvas, so it's all good. All right. All right. So let's start here. Group of persons who seek to control government in order to bring about the adoption of certain political policies and programs, right? So the Democrats have a different view of how they want government to function, and Republicans have a different view. Whoever gets power, they try and adopt these public policies and programs. Okay. Now, there are 5 functions of a political party, all right? And this is what a lot of people don't understand about political parties, okay? And this is a big one. The nominating function, okay? Choosing candidates, okay? What were there like, I don't know, were there like 12 Democrats that were vying for the nomination for the Democratic Party for president? You remember some of the names? Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders. Yeah, yep. What's his first name? Andrew Yang. Who? Buttigieg. Yep. Huh? Booker. Booker. Oh, Cory Booker. Yeah. Bloomberg. Who? Kamala, yeah. Yeah, it's like 12, okay? This is what parties do, okay? This is what sets them apart from different political organizations like the NRA. The NRA doesn't have a political party. They don't put forth candidates. The parties do, okay? This weeds out the bad candidates and expedites the election process. Now, how do we do that? How do we nominate? Okay, we do this in the states through the primary system, okay? So January and February, we see this begin the year of the election, okay? So 2020, the first two states to do this traditionally are Iowa and anybody? New Hampshire. Okay, Iowa does the caucus. And New Hampshire does a primary. Okay? Have you heard of these primary elections and caucuses? Okay. Now, this is not super difficult to understand. I just want to make sure you guys can see this. I'm going to turn this on so it follows me, okay? So the video captures this. Okay. All right. So what a caucus looks like, and we do this in Kansas. We use caucuses. We've done primaries before. Primaries are expensive. It's like putting on a general election. The party's got to pay for it, okay? So what a caucus is, anybody know how many counties we have in Kansas? Kansas history.
8 times. 56. We're so close.
Coach Lovehon would be very upset with you right now. Okay. All right, 105 counties in Kansas. So Sedgwick County is one of the biggest, most populated, right? So typically, and there's more Republicans than Democrats, yes? So Sedgwick County, the last two presidential, 16, 12, and I think going back to 08, they've held their caucus in Century 2, downtown, okay? And I went to the one in 2012 and the one in 2016 to the Republican caucus, all right? It's kind of fun, okay? Now, 2016 was freaking awesome, okay? Because the race, by the time it got to us, we are like in the summer. So we had been out of school, April, May, it was in June. Kansas was in June. So the Kansas caucus was in June. And so I saw, like, in 2016, I saw other former students. I saw parents and stuff. They were down there too, okay? But what was cool, we didn't know who was going to win the Republican nomination yet. It was down to 4 people, okay? Marco Rubio, remember that name? Okay. Ted Cruz, who was my guy. That's the guy I was supporting. Donald Trump and John Kasich from Ohio. Okay. He didn't drop out till the very end, but he had no chance. Okay. So it was really between Cruz and Rubio and Trump. Okay. Dude, they showed up. Cruz and Trump showed up in Wichita for the caucus. Okay. Now Trump was doing his thing. He did a rally. He rented one section of Century 2 for a rally before the caucus. Okay. And I just wanted to go see it. I'm like, I'm standing in line to go to the Trump rally before the caucus. Okay. Because I just want to witness history. Okay. So I'm standing in line, and there's a New York Times reporter there. He's looking for people to interview. I'm like, hey, over here, I'll talk to you. So I got interviewed by the New York Times and was quoted in the New York Times. Okay?
Do you have it?
I don't order the New York Times, but yeah, I saw it, online. But anyhow, and I told him kind of what I just told you. I said, I just kind of want to witness history, so I'm going to go into this Trump thing. And so I went into the Trump thing and watched 3 or 4 minutes. It was packed. It was packed. There were protesters outside, because he was talking about the wall a lot, right? So there was a lot of protest. and not a ton of protesters, just a few. And anyhow, so I got in there, took some video and some pictures, and then I got out of there and got in line for the caucus, which is another part of Sec3 too. Okay, so all the people that were in line for the caucus were Cruz people, because all the Trump people were in the rally. Okay, so I got in line, got in. You have to show your ID, and you got to be a registered Republican to go in there. Okay, we are a closed primary state, so if you want to vote in the caucus or primary, you have to register as a Republican or a Democrat. They don't let independents in. You moderates, sorry, you're not allowed in. Okay, it's not your party. You want to come to the party? Join the party. Okay. Now some states have open primaries where Republicans can vote in the Democratic primary and Democrats can vote in the Republican primary, and you can try and sabotage the other side. So you're going to vote for the person you think that's easiest to beat. You know what I mean? Okay. Shenanigans. Okay. Now, so anyhow, I get in line, I get in there, and Cruz is on the floor. He's like shaking hands, talking to people, and I got down there on the floor, and I said, "Hey, Ted, how you doing?" I'm not a big autograph guy or anything like that, but got a close picture of him and stuff like that. And then, so it's time to speak, okay? Which this is really interesting. So Rubio didn't show up. Now, he was in Wichita like a week earlier, okay, campaigning. And some of my students went to see Rubio, okay? But anyhow, Cruz talks, okay? And it's all Cruz people. Everybody's going nuts, you know? It's full, okay? So the Trump people were waiting in line because they went to his thing. And then Mike Pompeo, who was the representative of our 4th district in the House at the time, spoke on behalf of Rubio, okay, which is interesting, okay? And then Trump came out, and he spoke to the caucus, which was all Cruz people, okay? So I had to go, I had to pick up Lily or something. She had practice. I had to go home and get her. And you're not allowed to vote until all the speeches are done. And they're doing this in every county in Kansas, okay? Now, obviously, the candidates didn't show up in those other, this is the biggest city, okay? So they have representatives that will speak on their behalf, like Rubio did. You follow me? And each county, and then they vote. And whoever wins the most counties wins Kansas, okay? And Cruz won Kansas, okay? That caucus, all right? But anyhow, so I'm like, I gotta go. Trump's still talking. And I'm like, I go down to vote. And they're like, you can't vote until everybody's done. So I gotta go. He's almost done. I've heard this speech before. He's almost done. Can I go ahead and vote? I think I was the first person to vote, and they let me vote and get out of there. Okay. So that's how this works. Now, if it's a primary, it's just a vote. Now, these 2 states lead the way. So they're important. They're very important because you could take a relatively unknown candidate, say like an Andrew Yang, okay, that nobody's ever heard of or very few have heard of. And he goes to a small state like Iowa and New Hampshire and spends 6 months campaigning the previous year, you know, in those months coming up to January and February, and gets to know lots of people. You don't have to have a ton of money to do that. If this was California, if they were first, I mean, you would have to have a ton of money to do that. You know what I mean? So it kind of like, say, a Bill Clinton in '92 when he was elected. Guys, he took second in Iowa, took second in New Hampshire. I mean, nobody thought this guy had a chance, but he was really good at campaigning, and he spent a lot of time in these states. And when you leave Iowa and New Hampshire and you do well in those states, you get what's called a bounce. Moving forward to South Carolina, then Michigan. Okay, and then down through the states. And then there's a Super Tuesday, which you do Nebraska, Kansas, the Dakotas, and they're all on the same day. Okay, and then you work your way through. Guys, the conventions are in August. Okay, so hopefully by August, you know who your party's nominee is going to be. Now, in 2008, it was Hillary versus Obama for the Democratic nomination. I know you guys probably don't remember that, but it went deep into the summer, okay? They didn't know who was going to win, Hillary or Obama. Of course, Obama ended up getting the nomination, 2008, okay, and going on to win the presidency, okay? But if you don't know who the nominee is going into the convention, you decide the convention. The last time 1976, Republicans, Kansas City was where the convention was. Mr. Barber was there. Okay, he volunteered to be security at the convention. Okay, so he can tell you the story. And it was between Gerald Ford, who would replace Nixon when he resigned, and Ronald Reagan. In 76, Ford got the nomination in Kansas City and then lost to Jimmy Carter, the peanut farmer from Georgia. Okay. All right. And then Reagan would come back 4 years later. Okay. So that's this role here, okay, of nominating candidates. You get rid of the weak ones, okay? The cream rises to the top, if you will. Yeah, I guess there's another way of putting it. Okay. All right. All right. So the informative function of parties. Now, this is a in recent years, especially with the internet, okay? But provide information to voters, okay? Increasingly more bias, less necessary because of the internet, okay? So the Republican National Committee and the Democratic National Committee, these are the national parties, all right? They call they call me on the phone and ask for money, okay? And then they would use that money to promote candidates, all right? Now, I stopped giving to the RNC in about 2004, okay, because I was pretty upset with the Republican Party at the time. Still am. I don't like the party itself because they spend too much money in my view, okay? So I'm like, when they called me for money, I just started telling them, I said, well, when you guys stop acting like Democrats, I'll start sending you money. Okay. I just call them diet Democrats, all right? Or, yeah, diet Democrats works pretty good. Okay. George W. Bush never, in 8 years, vetoed 2 bills, 2 times. All the other spending that he signed off on. I'm like, dude, come on, man. Now we're at 27 trillion in national debt. Okay, that's a big issue for me, okay, as a voter. All right. So the governmental appointment function. Okay. Now we know about this. We just saw it. Many presidential appointments are based on recommendations from the party. So Amy Coney Barrett, right? The president nominated her. Look, when these presidents get to appoint federal judges, ambassadors, consuls, they get to appoint, obviously, as judges. What else they get? Oh, cabinet, right? They get the cabinet. Okay. So when you look at what Biden is doing right now, he's trying to figure out who his cabinet's going to be. Okay. Bernie Sanders came out, said yesterday, if he nominates me for a cabinet position, I will accept it. Okay. Now, is it smart for Biden to add Sanders to the cabinet? Politically, I don't know if that's a good idea. Now, it'll help him with his base, yes, but it won't really help him with the public at large. Okay, so he may, huh? No, well, I'd say about 60 to 70% of people won't be. Yeah, some Democrats will not be happy, and the Democrats are fighting right now. You understand? Because they lost seats in the House. This was not a blue wave. This was not a red wave. Okay? This
is a mess.
Yeah, it's just a freaking mess. It's a cesspool is what it is. Okay. If we're talking about water, all right? So, yeah, so where do these appointments come from? They pull from the party, okay? The other thing is, like, for local races, okay, for like the state legislature, for city councils and so forth, they pull from the party, okay? People that, if any of you guys are interested in local politics or politics in general, it's best to get started at the local level, okay? And so you can join the Sedgwick County Democratic Party, or I think I've talked about the Pachydermy Club in here. I talked about the Pachydermy Club in here. Okay. The Republican Party of Sedgwick County is called the Pachydermy Club. Why pachydermy? This is an honors class, right? What's a pachyderm? What kind of animal? No. It's an elephant.
That's not.
Okay, so they call this Cedric County Pachydermy Club. That's the Republican Party of Cedric County. Okay. And if you're interested in getting involved, guys, all you got to do is call them and say, hey, I'd like to volunteer. Then you start to meet people in the party, you know, like the local party leaders. And then they'll introduce you to the state party leaders. And if you stick with that for a few years, now you can do this in college. You can join the college Republicans or the college Democrats or Turning Point USA or these types of groups that you'll find on college campuses, okay? You get involved, you get to know the people. And then, you know, you get out and you start a career. And they say, hey, we've got an open seat where you live. What do you say we help you get elected to this spot, to the state legislature? That's how you do it, okay? So local party politics, which we'll get into the structure of that in a little bit, okay? So you got that, you got the watchdog function. Now this is really important and a vital role of the party, okay? The party that is out of power criticizes the party that's in power, okay? And tries to keep them honest. Now we didn't see any of this with the Democrats versus Donald Trump, did we? Watchdog function. I don't know, like a
Impeachment.
whole special counsel. Somebody just spoke up.
Impeachment.
Yeah, hi Sam.
Hello.
We miss you.
I realize.
So there was a special counsel on Russian collusion that lasted almost 3 years, and then they impeached him. Okay, so that's watchdog right there, okay? And guys, Republicans did this to Obama, okay? It's just something's going to happen. Right? The Republicans controlled the Senate the last few years while Trump was president, so they were, you know, trying to look at information to protect President Trump in many ways, okay? So that's a vital role, okay? The practical function. This decreases the likelihood of extreme positions getting into politics, working on compromises, providing options, okay? Without them, we would have more chaos. All right, so will the Republicans and Democrats work together here? Okay, I think a lot depends on, you know, what the Senate winds up in. Republicans are at 50. Okay, that's done, 50. There are 2 seats still unknown. And they're both in what state? Georgia. Okay, the rule in Georgia is when you run for the Senate, you got to get 50.1% of the vote, a majority. Okay, so I think it's his last name is Senator Perdue. He's a Republican running for re-election in Georgia. He got 49.7% of the vote. See, they have multiple candidates for the Senate in Georgia. They didn't do a primary, drop that down to 2 candidates. So they had multiple Republicans, multiple Democrats running against each other. It's hard to get to 51%. And then the other Senate seat in Georgia, it wasn't even close to a majority. So you're going to have an insane amount of money pouring into Georgia when that election takes special election on December 7th. Okay? Democrats are asking people to move to Georgia so they can vote in that election. Thinking about moving to Georgia.
That seems a
You
bit.
with me, Sam?
Yeah. That seems a bit off. Any other opinions on this?
Look, I used to live in Georgia. I went to college. I'm probably still registered there. They probably still me on the voter. I'll get a mail-in ballot from Georgia. How's that? Okay. Who's in Georgia?
No, but Greg Rose is from Georgia.
Okay. So guys, that's going to be insane. I'm talking, they're going to spend, because it's 2 seats and it's control of the United States Senate. If Republicans win 1, they got control. Democrats win both of them, it's 50-50, and we wait on the presidential election to see who won that. Because the vice president will be the tie-breaking vote. Okay. Cesspool. All right. So the practical function, you know, it protects the system. Okay. All right. Now, this is something that people need to understand. Okay. Why are we entrenched in the two-party system? Okay. And I can do that in 20 minutes. Okay. All right. So history. There's how many reasons? There's 4 reasons. Okay. We got 5 functions of political party. Name 2. You get it? You get it?
Oh, Republican and.
No. I was trying to give you a hint.
Oh, that.
How many functions are there political parties?
5.
Name 2.
Government.
Anybody have a clue what I'm talking about?
No.
Say it. What? Oh, the test. Okay, I can't hear you. Nothing, Ashley. Okay. History. It started with the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists. It's been that way ever since. 2 parties. Okay? Force of tradition, inertia. An object in motion will stay in motion. This is called cross-curricular learning. Science. Government.
I haven't taken physics since freshman year.
Me either.
Why do you guys remember that?
How did you not remember that?
I know what inertia is, but why did you guys not remember it?
The first thing that you learn. It's called rule number 1 for a reason.
Sam was even physics today.
Rule number 1. Okay. So, if it's not broke, don't fix it. The system is self-reinforcing. Yeah. Now, is there discontent? Heck yeah, there is. Okay. I mean, you've got the fringe that is not of the left that is not happy about Joe Biden. You know what I mean? You got Antifa out there yelling, F Joe Biden. Okay. And it's insane. Okay. Is there discontent? Yes. It's usually short-lived. When things improve, that discontent tends to fade away. Okay, so we have rarely seen a strong third party make a push to replace one of these 2 major parties. Okay, you guys know a little bit about American history, but this is where the real cause of this 2-party system is. Okay, the electoral system that we use. Okay, most districts are single-member districts. Winner takes all. So it's hard to break it, okay? And this goes back to what we just saw with the Electoral College, all right? In Kansas, sorry, okay? If you win 51% of the popular vote in Kansas, you get all 6, right? So if you're a third party, like the Libertarian Party, and if you go and look at the results of the election, okay, I think Jo Jorgensen, she got 1.2% here. Yeah, okay. And where do you think those votes took away from, Trump or Biden? Really? I think conservatives tend to be pretty libertarian, but you do have the issue of like drugs, like drug legalization, that you might see some Biden voters go that way with the libertarians.
Can you talk about that for just a little bit?
Libertarians?
No,
Oregon legalized heroin.
Heroin?
Yeah.
They're legalizing it.
Somebody legalized
And coke.
What?
Okay.
I think they decriminalized all that.
Okay.
And then legalized.
Okay.
shrooms.
Okay, so
Marijuana.
basically, the liberal view on this is that drug addiction is a disease, and so we should not criminalize a disease. Okay. Now, I don't know if you believe that or not. Okay. The people that push the drugs that get people addicted, well, I guess they're not going to be charged with crimes either. Okay. So, that's just it's a very liberal view. Now, if you go to Portugal, okay, Portugal has decriminalized drugs as well. You go to Amsterdam in Europe, decriminalized drugs. The idea is treatment over jail. I don't know what the impact, obviously, guys, they're going to wind up with more homeless people because of drug addiction and mental health and so forth. Now, maybe they defund the police there and use that money to help with, drug recovery and that sort of thing. Okay.
I'm not sure if that's supposed to be satire or an actual serious thing. Defunding the police to get rid of drug abuse.
Yeah, so to create more, take that money and use it for mental health and for, I don't know, drug prevention programs, but maybe more drug recovery programs. Yeah.
So say we go to this hypothetical idea that they defund the police and put money towards helping people with drug addictions. How are they getting the people with drug addictions into where they're helping treat them?
Well, I mean, you basically hire people that, like social workers. Now you may have to deputize them to, in order to get them into treatment facilities. You can't force somebody to do something. You got to have, police powers to do that. So, so send in the social workers. Look, it's a way of thinking about things that is different than classically what we do in this country. The war on drugs, we lost. So basically, these states are saying we lost the war on drugs. Now let's accept it and find the best way to deal with it. Okay. And to me, there is some sense to that. I have a hard time with it because of kids. I worry about children. You know what I mean? There is access to drugs for children. Okay. So like, if I were to ask you guys, and I may have already done this in this class, if somebody, you guys, you're going to get together with some friends this weekend and you want a joint, could you find somebody in the school to buy a joint from? Okay, so many of you already have access to it, right? So am I too fearful that by legalizing or decriminalizing marijuana that it makes that access even more accessible to young kids, to middle school kids, to high school kids? Okay. I generally have the opinion adults can do, I don't like to be told what to do personally. You know what I mean? I don't like to be told I have to wear my seatbelt. I don't like to be told, I have to wear a mask. I just don't like being told what to do. You know what I mean? Because it's my life. The government shouldn't be able to control me. That's how libertarians feel. Okay. So I think Joe Jorgensen, I would say, probably pulled more from Trump than Biden, but
from what I've seen, like a lot of people, they just said what's provided.
yeah,
And then some people who are like, I don't like either party, I'm just gonna vote Libertarian.
yeah, there's some of that. And is that a wasted vote? I mean, Joe Jorgensen is not going to win Canada. Did you just waste your vote if you voted for her? Okay, so how do you get to 51%? So like, if she does not get 2% of the popular vote in a state, okay, in order to get your party on the ballot, if she gets 2%, her party automatically goes back on the ballot in 2024. You follow me? But if your party doesn't reach 2%, now how do you get your party on the ballot? In most states, guys, it's 50,000 signatures, okay, to get your party on the ballot so that you can have a candidate, okay? If you don't get 2%, you got to start over from scratch. Follow me? Okay, so this is one of the other reasons why we're stuck in the two-party system. This is the big one, right? Yeah.
So I don't know if I remember this correctly, but did George Washington write a different thing about how, like, not to do political parties always?
Yeah, he feared them.
Yeah.
Yes, and the political parties are not mentioned in the Constitution. They're a natural reaction of human nature that James Madison talked about in Federalist Number 10. Did you guys watch my discussion on Federalist number 10? I don't know if you did. It's excellent, though. Okay? Factions. Okay? So, yes, no, I mean, yeah, and then we're stuck with it. Now, so you can even take a state like Nebraska, okay, which divides their electors, into 5, right? Or what? Okay, 5. And you got to win 51% of each district. Maine does the same thing, right? But still, there again, just to get one electoral vote, you're going to have to be really popular in one of these districts. Okay? So you need 50% to win the electoral college, not just a plurality. Okay? So let me go back. Remember when we talk about our European friends that use the parliamentary system? Okay, and my history students, okay, this is how Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. Okay, the Nazis in 1932 won 36% of the seats in the German Reichstag. That's not a majority, but it was the most seats of any party. It's a plurality. We use a majority. Okay, so you got to get to 270. So really, if you have multiple parties and they're all strong, if you have 3 of them, chances are who's going to end up deciding who the president is? Nobody's going to get to 270. Who decides if you don't get to 270? Remember I talked about it the other day. This happened in 1800 and 1824. If it was a 269 to 269 tie. The House. Remember, you got to get 26 of the 50 states. Each group of House members gets 1 vote. Okay, we have 3 Republicans and 1 Democrat in Kansas, right? Remember that? Did I? You didn't watch the video or something? I don't know. So you could run into that. Okay, if you had a strong third party. Okay, people believe minor party voting is a wasted vote. Like, man, I really am a libertarian, but I know she has no chance of winning, so I'm going to go with the person that's closest. You know what I mean? So a lot of people won't want to waste their vote. And I'm not saying it's a wasted vote. Everybody has a different opinion on it. Okay? Kind of a wasted vote. Okay? You have to try and change your party. You know what I mean? So if I feel like the Republican Party is spending too much freaking money, then I need to change the Republican Party. Okay? And if you don't feel like the Democratic Party is progressive enough or socialist enough, the progressives are trying to change the Democratic Party. Okay? But they weren't ready for that. And that's why we got Biden instead of, Sanders or what's your name? Warren. Okay. All right. So as opposed to a European multi-party system, whatever percentage you get in the election, your party gets that same percentage in parliament. So it's easier for small parties to succeed. Okay. That's why we're entrenched in this, guys. Okay. I know. I understand. The 2 parties, I used to be like, I'm a Republican. I like the Republican Party. I'm not like that. I'm cynical. Okay? But where else am I going to go? You know what I mean? To the blue party. All right. Good talk. So yeah, maybe print off those notes at home and stuff, guys. You can always pull them up on your devices too. Have a good one.
You too.